Okay, so the last Cassie summary video we have is the last two descriptions of service learning activities. So these are the two bigger ones. Oh, by the way, for the last video, Crewtacular, the first year was about 10 hours, and the second one this year was 20 hours. Um, so the first one I'd like to talk about kind of goes off the same tangent train as Creeptacular in my terms of weird projects that I do. Um, and that is Mask and Sandal Theater Productions. A lot of people would say this is more creativity because you're working in a theater production. But again, it goes back to entertaining the community. It is a form of service learning. You are servicing your community by giving them entertainment. I didn't get paid. Mask and Sandal got paid to do further shows, but that's not me. Is the organization I'm working for. So is community service. It's good. So the two shows I really worked on during CAS were The Foreigner and Noises Off. I was a technician in both. I worked some aspects of house crew, so I was building the sets, but my main function, sorry, not house crew, floor crew. My main function was as house crew. So what I did was I welcomed people, I sold tickets, I led them to their seats, I made sure house was clean. I was the front of the house, and it was a blast. Um, while I'm independent and don't work well in teams, I am a very personable person. That was horrible English. Um, I like talking to people, and I enjoy doing things such as selling tickets, I found out. It was a bit of a party. Sitting out and enjoying, being the secretaries of money, counting money, um, learning those different skills that were fundamental to house crew. I'd never really done anything like that before. Like at events, you always see the two girls that are sitting there collecting money, and I got to be one of them. It was fun. Um, so of course, increased awareness of strengths and weaknesses. I found out I'm really strong at people skills. I'm not as strong in money skills and time management skills. In terms of people skills, I'm really good at figuring out how to communicate with people. This sounds terrible coming off the last video, but in terms of like one party to another, I'm really good at just having a normal conversation. That's what I mean. Um, I'm really good at just having a normal conversation with people and just making them feel happy and just having a happy conversation and just, asking, hey, how was your day? And making it seem like I really do care. Um, Thank yous, highs, please, little simple things like that actually go a really long way, surprisingly, which is nice. I learned I'm actually really good at those skills, though. I just learned that from sitting and reading people. What I learned I'm not good at is time management, because I like to have conversations for far too long. And in rush hour during a show that doesn't work at all. It just doesn't go over well, and the line gets really bogged down. And getting a higher awareness of that was really important because it made me figure out, like, hey, this needs to be fixed. I guess that's a challenge we'll do. Yay! Anyways, the other really big one is I'm not very good at money skills. Like, we had this little cheat sheet for our math because I'm not good at math, apparently. Um, Ticket prices were $5 for a student, $8 for anyone else. And figuring out the math to that, like always turning to the calculator and calculating, and people look at me like an idiot, like, hey, it's just 2 tickets. Like, oh, yeah, it's $16, right? Um, Figuring out that I'm not very good at that was actually really important to me, because the more you become aware of your weaknesses, the more you can work on them to become strengths. And that's not necessarily that they'll become your strongest points. It's that awareness will help you achieve getting through them in a good way. And having that awareness was really important to me because it also made me a better math student over the course of this year in my actual IB studies. I figured out that I needed to really focus on math, and so I did. That increased awareness really did help me. Undertaking new challenges, like I said, I never really did the whole money secretary keeper person thing. There's no real word for it other than house crew in theater. Um, it was a really new challenge for me, and I'm, by standards before these 2 years, I was much more on the acting side of things. So turning to technical aspects, you have to learn a totally different set of rules. You have to learn how to put a platform together instead of how to go out and be a character. And that's something I wasn't used to at all. So I really had to take a step back and not be a leader in these cases, which was weird for me. It was uncomfortable, but it was definitely a challenge, and I went through with it to try and figure it out. Um, I let the others lead me so I could learn better how to be better for the team and for the community rather than just for myself. Another big one was working collaboratively, which is huge in a theater troupe. Like, you have to trust everyone in these situations. You are a minute aspect of the show, but every little minute aspect creates the show. So if one falls apart, the entire thing just goes blah blah blah. It's not like Jenga. You can't like take pieces out strategically. Like as soon as one goes off, even if it's from the top, the whole tower goes crumbling. It's crazy. So I really had to put my ego aside for this, and learning how to do that also was a really good experience that came from theater. Learning how to put the ego and the self aside for the better product as a whole. Like, I wasn't thinking about me during these shows at all. I was thinking about what's good for the show. And once you really step back and notice that, it's refreshing to feel yourself do that. It's much more collective, and you feel good about doing something for the theater community, for the community as a whole, for the entertainment aspect. So that was really nice to see. Working collaboratively really creates that. Like, it's an instant snap. It's not something you think about. It's just something you do. Otherwise, you don't, you just, you just will not survive in theater. It just doesn't work. Um, the last really big one was the development of new skills. That kind of goes with the undertaking of new challenges for this one. Um, like I said, I had to really figure out how to do all of the different things in technical work that I've never done before. Like I said, I've never put together a platform. I've never worked with money. But you have to develop all these new skills to be able to work on a crew and function at the same level as everybody else. It takes time, but you do develop them, and I certainly did, especially with house crew. I absolutely adored being a part of it, and I adored just greeting people and welcoming them to our show. It seems like a small job, but it felt so important to me because, you're developing those new people skills, you're developing those money skills, and again, working on those weaknesses. It's all connected with theater, and that's one of the things I really like about it. My favorite, by the way, I did about 60 hours collectively between those two shows for theater. My favorite service learning project, though, has been over the course of these 2 years. I have been a student aide for one of the teachers at my school, who I actually took a class for from a sophomore year. I'm not counting for hours the first 3 semesters I worked for him, but I am the fourth semester, which is this semester. I got credits those first 3, so it wouldn't really seem to be fair to call it service learning. But this last semester does count. I did that on purpose because I really wanted to talk about it. So working as a student aide, I've done all sorts of things. I have written tests, I've graded essays, I've graded just regular multiple choice stuff. I've written assignments, I've written lesson plans, like, I run just regular errands. I do a lot as a teacher aide. And it has been one of the most fascinating developments of my life, and it has completely changed me as a person. This was the best service learning opportunity, and I learned a lot from it. Number one, increased awareness of weaknesses and strengths again. Biggest strength I have. Did I have one? That's kind of the question working as a student aide makes you pose, because you're starting on like flat ground and you have to build a mountain out of it. I guess if I did have a strength, it would be that I had taken the same class that I was grading for before, so I knew what these students needed because it's an MYP class. You know, I know the curriculum, I know what it's going to be like when they go into diploma program, and I knew what to look for these kids. And even with the geography kids, I knew my geography stuff because I just love maps. Um, but I had a lot of weaknesses starting out. Um, First of all, time management. I wasn't good at it. I didn't know how to really sit down and just grade an essay at once. Or just grade a series of tests at once. That way you could have it same across the board for all the grading. I would just, meander through it, take my time. But you can't do that with students. They want their information back. That way they can do better in the class in the future. It's not fair to them to hold that back. Sorry, my dog again. Um, it's stuff like that. Literally everything I went into in this exploration was a weakness that I grew into a really big strength. Like, I didn't know how to read essays and what the difference between a good and bad essay was from a technical teacher analytical standpoint. I had to learn all of this from the person I was aiding. Undertaking new challenges. Again, it's a huge challenge to become a teacher. You don't think about all of the big, huge things they do in the background when you're a student. You don't think of all the planning that goes into it. You don't think of all the test writing. You don't think of all the grading. It's a cluster. It's huge. And learning to really respect that was a challenge, as well as learning how to do it all. There's no textbook for how to be a teacher. You really have to work your way through it. You have to grade essays and figure it out and be told, no, this is wrong, and that you're doing something wrong. And that's a challenge to hear. It's hard to take that kind of criticism when it's something you so don't know anything about. Um, Learning how to write tests, how to manage and write for other people than yourself in a way that they'll understand to get the best grade possible. That's why it really was service, because it's not for me. It is 100% for the students. It is 100% to give them the best grade possible and teach them so that they can do well and excel in the future. Working collaboratively, I worked one-on-one with the teacher I was aiding all the time. He had to tell me exactly what he wanted, and I would help and edit as I could, and he would edit for me, and it would just go back and forth like that. So again, working collaboratively, it was crazy to work with him as a partner rather than just a teacher. And he became really more of a mentor figure to me than just a teacher. Working one-on-one, we really started to figure out what worked best as a team. And I've never really had that before. It's all been like little short snippets of team assignments where you just give someone part of the homework to do. This, you really had to figure out what I'm good at and what he's good at, and where it meets in the middle. And that's a really important skill to have. Um, Another thing, again, perseverance and commitment kind of goes without saying. I've done this for 2 full years, persevering through it, especially during the hard times and not knowing how to do things. Like, I didn't know how to do holistic grading when I came into this. I had to persevere and commit on how to do it. It was extra work on top of my IB studies, and I really did have to commit to doing it. Otherwise, it would have just kind of squandered away. Um, Engaging with issues of global importance. Education is global importance. And especially a lot of the education we worked with, because we were working with kids that, he has a lot of kids in his classes that they aren't special ed, I don't quite remember the word for it, but they have their own programs for education to make it work best for them. Learning how to be a good educator is something that's not easy to do because you're not doing it for yourself. It is 100% learning how to educate kids to better the future of the world. And that really is of global importance. And to really just work so closely with that was an incredible experience. And the same thing goes for ethical implications. The really big ethical implications of this are like, how does a student grade another student? And I guess the answer to that is really just learning to grade like a teacher. And that took me a long time to realize, but CAS taught it to me.